Fordow, a name that sounds unfamiliar to most people, has been a nightmare for Western intelligence agencies for more than a decade. Located more than 300 feet beneath solid limestone, this nuclear facility is the heart of Iran's ambition to develop weapons of mass destruction. Not only is it shielded by multiple layers of physical defenses, but Fordow is also protected by a dense network of surface-to-air missile systems, electronic jamming equipment, and Revolutionary Guard units on constant 24/7 watch. Yet even all of that hasn't been enough to deter Israel and the United States. In the past few weeks, secret but decisive actions have been underway. Reports from Pentagon officials indicate that the U.S. strategic bomber B-2 Spirit has begun departing from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, heading toward the Middle East. These stealth aircraft capable of penetrating any radar system are not only symbols of American air power, but also a nightmare for any fortified target on Earth. Each B-2 can carry 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs, each weighing approximately 30,000 pounds, specifically designed to tunnel through hundreds of feet of concrete, steel, and rock before detonating inside the target. And this time the target is Fordow. Military experts say that destroying Fordow cannot be accomplished with a single bombing run. It requires an extremely complex coordinated operation, involving intelligence forces, reconnaissance, aircraft EA-18 Growler, electronic warfare fighters, and aerial refueling units. Every step must be calculated down to the second, every meter of altitude, and every strike targeting the weakest points in Iran's defense system. General Mark Wetherington, one of the seasoned commanders of the U.S. Air Force, confirmed, "No country in the world except the United States can destroy Fordow without using nuclear weapons. But with the B-2 and the massive ordnance penetrator MOP, we absolutely can." This statement is not just a warning, it is a political message sent directly to Tehran. Israel did not wait. While the U.S. president was still considering whether to authorize airstrikes on Fordow, Tel Aviv had already taken action. In a series of deterrent and reconnaissance air raids, the Israeli Air Force targeted multiple sites linked to Iran's missile and nuclear programs, from weapons depots in Tehran and missile manufacturing plants in the west to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Guard. Moreover, a senior Iranian nuclear scientist was eliminated on the spot during a covert operation carried out right in the heart of Tehran. This bold move is not a solitary action. Israel knows full well that relying on itself alone, it cannot destroy Fordow. But if it can create enough pressure strong enough and fast enough, it can force the U.S. to take action. And they are doing it perfectly. At U.S. military bases in the Middle East, the state of combat readiness has been raised to the highest level. KC-135 refueling aircraft have been deployed to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and also to air bases in the United Kingdom. Dozens of reconnaissance drones take off daily to monitor every movement of Iran's defense forces. Meanwhile, U.S. aircraft carriers such as the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and the USS Nimitz are moving closer to strategic positions off the coast of Iran. Everyone is waiting for an order. The question is, when? The most straightforward scenario currently is a devastating preemptive strike, in which a B-2 Spirit would fly at an altitude of 49,000 feet, infiltrating Iranian airspace via Saudi Arabia or Iraq, possibly under electronic protection from EA-18 aircraft, and jamming satellites. 2 MOP bombs would be dropped on the same target, creating an explosion crater hundreds of meters deep, completely destroying the command center and centrifuge systems beneath Fordow. If successful, Iran's nuclear program would be reduced to zero in less than 5 minutes. And if it fails, the Middle East will be engulfed in flames. Never before has the gap between a fragile peace and all-out war been so narrow. Iran knows this. Israel understands it clearly. And the U.S. has only a few hours left to make a pivotal decision of the century. Without waiting for a decision from Washington, Israel took the initiative to launch an unprecedented military campaign. While President Trump was still weighing the political cost and global risks of a strike on Fordow, Tel Aviv, had already sent a message in the only language Tehran understands: bombs and bullets. Over the course of the night, more than 50 fighter jets, primarily F-15Is and F-35Is, secretly crossed Iraqi airspace and approached the skies over Tehran. Guided by reconnaissance drones and real-time intelligence systems, These missions struck over 20 strategic targets, missile manufacturing plants, warhead storage facilities, the Revolutionary Guard's command centers, and notably nuclear development sites on the outskirts of the capital. But Israel did not only target the infrastructure. One of the most precise attacks was the elimination of a top Iranian nuclear scientist. He was hiding in a discreet house in Tehran, protected by multiple layers of security and strict surveillance. However, Israeli intelligence pinpointed his location, and the Hermes suicide drone completed its mission within seconds. No one survived within a 33-foot radius around the target. Result: Iran is stunned. The world is amazed. The U.S. remains silent. Iran immediately accused Israel of launching an all-out war and declared it would retaliate. But before they could strike back, Israel remained on the offensive. Iran's missile launchers in the western region were heavily attacked with guided munitions and air-to-ground missiles. Numerous Shahab missile storage facilities and mobile launch equipment being prepared for firing were destroyed right on site. At the same time, Israeli drones continued to operate deep within Iranian territory. Nighttime footage showed drones circling directly over the skies of Tehran, the capital, something no country has dared to do since the Cold War era. This is no longer a symbolic punitive strike. It is a campaign aimed at paralyzing Iran's ability to retaliate from the outset. Military analysts in Jerusalem have assessed if the U.S. does not take action, Israel will clear the board on its own. However, in reality, Tel Aviv also understands that not every target can be destroyed solely with F-15s or F-35s. Extremely deep targets like Fordo require the massive ordnance penetrator MEOP bomb, something only the U.S. Air Force can deploy using the B-2 Spirit bomber. However, what Israel is doing is testing whether the U.S. will step into the game after Israel has laid everything on the table. It is also a warning to Iran. Don't think you're safe just because Fordo is buried deep beneath the mountain rock. By morning, the airstrikes had not yet stopped. More than 100 precision-guided bombs were dropped on areas around Arak, the site of Iran's second nuclear reactor, which had been shut down under the previous nuclear agreement, but was secretly restarted over the past 2 years. Buildings related to plutonium research were also demolished. A significant portion of the technical infrastructure supporting nuclear weapons development was completely destroyed. At this point, Iran began to respond. They launched a series of ballistic missiles into northern Israel, targeting the city of Haifa, home to Israel's major seaport and its most important oil refinery. One missile struck Soroka Hospital, causing civilian casualties, including elderly survivors of the Holocaust. Iranian media described it as an act of justice in response to the aggression. However, Israel did not stop. The defense minister declared, "Our goal is to fundamentally weaken the Tehran regime. If necessary, we will continue striking day and night until they can no longer recover." This was both a warning and a declaration. Israel will not back down whether alone or not. Satellite images released 48 hours after the operation revealed that Iran's level of damage was undeniable. Research centers were completely wiped out, defense bases were burned to the ground, and missile launch pads were destroyed before they could even be armed. The entire Islamic world began to realize there is no longer any place immune to Israeli strikes. But even with impressive results, this campaign is just the opening act. Fordo is still there, and Israel, despite its strength, still needs a partner equipped with a weapon capable of penetrating Iran's thick Earth-like protective shield. And at this moment, all eyes are turning toward Washington. Will the United States step into this decisive battle? Tehran had remained silent for long enough. Just a few hours after Israel's intense airstrikes crippled most of Iran's military and nuclear infrastructure, the Revolutionary Guard launched a retaliation described as relentless. For the first time since the conflict began, Iran fired a barrage of 23 ballistic missiles into Israeli territory, many equipped with heavy fragmentation warheads targeting densely populated cities directly. The city of Haifa, the industrial capital of northern Israel, was shaken by multiple large explosions. One of the rockets penetrated the defense system and struck Soroka Hospital at 4:58 a.m. Walls collapsed, windows shattered, and residents panicked. 7 people were injured, including children and the elderly. Images circulating on social media cut deeply into the fears of the Israeli people. Iran has crossed the red line, launching a direct attack on civilians. And that's not all. Missiles also fell on residential areas in Tel Aviv, Holon, and Ramla. One of them is believed to have targeted the office of a defense technology corporation, which Iran claims has close ties to the Israeli Ministry of Defense and UAV control systems. Although this has not been independently verified, Tehran quickly issued a victory statement. The enemy has been punished, and this is only the beginning. Facing a sudden wave of attacks, Israel immediately launched a counterstrike. More than 20 fighter jets took off to strike the missile launch sites recently used in western Iran. Intelligence units detected trucks transporting warheads being moved to new launch points. All were destroyed before they could be assembled. A senior officer of the Iranian missile unit was eliminated inside his mobile command vehicle. Second, what worries Israeli officials even more is the change in Tehran's tactics. No longer just sporadically firing one or two rockets like in the early days, Iran has shifted to launching volleys, intense, deliberate attacks clearly targeting residential areas. According to experts, some of these missiles carry multiple submunitions functioning like cluster bombs that cause widespread damage. Others, according to Prime Minister Netanyahu, have a destructive power greater than any rocket Israel has ever endured. The situation has become dangerous not only for the Israeli front, but for the entire region. An intercepted missile fell onto Syrian territory, causing a large fire at an oil refinery.